Hi everyone, this is Dr. Richard Robbins joining you from the University of Minnesota Duluth. I am so excited to be here for the National Catholic Educators Association 2021 conference. My theme for today's talk is Reimagining the 21st Century Choral Rehearsal. What are our opportunities here in this moment? Where might our profession be going? Is there anything we can take from this difficult time as we move forward and try to find the best ways to encourage our students to sing and to participate? I'm very grateful for some support in this endeavor from my colleagues at the American Federation Pueri Cantores. The American Federation Pueri Cantores is the official music organization for students in the Catholic Church. AFPC organizes choral festivals and masses for parish and school choirs grades 4 through 12 in cathedrals and other churches around the United States. They are a corporate partner of the National Catholic Educational Association and provide professional opportunities for music teachers and no-cost music education resources for the 6,400 Catholic schools in our nation. For more information, go to pcchoirs.org and learn more about that great organization. This has been a year like no other, and if you're like me, maybe a year ago you were experiencing a little withdrawal from the usual. Perhaps you were finding creative ways to engage anyone you could in some sort of musical activity.
Mom just texted me. We need to make a happy birthday video really quick. It's kind of weird. Hey, Dad. It's just a quick happy birthday video, nothing crazy.
And what's your first note?
C.
Okay, sing that together, and a little bit of an onset issue, right? So we're gonna ride the air into that sound. Okay, let's. The real problem is we're sitting and we're just not getting the support that we need. So let's all stand. Okay. We've talked about windows as a family, right? So you're not gonna. No. Yeah. Okay. Move over here. Okay. John, what's the first word?
Happy.
Happy. And if we're singing the word happy, we should look happy. Okay. And we've already lost our windows, so I'm not exactly sure if you all take this as seriously as I do. We spend all semester working on this music, and I just want you to think about your audience, and maybe about what the music means to you, because it means a lot to me.
What can we take from this situation, and how did we get here? Well, as is often the case when we are presented with emergencies or with things that affect structure, right? Events that are unexpected, emergencies. Sometimes those events reveal what I would call pre-existing stresses on the system. Things that were already moving in a direction that might not be ideal, but the stress of the situation actually fast forwards the progress of that stressor. In this case, I think that our pandemic situation revealed a lot of stresses that were already existent in education and in music education. Some of these issues are philosophical. Some of these issues, I think, are associated with repertoire. Some of these reveal deficiencies in our ability to assess students effectively. And I believe strongly that some of these stresses have revealed many issues of equity that plague our music classrooms and our educational system in general. What can we say about the philosophical need to sing? Well, right now, programs across the country are being held to account for what they actually provide to enrich our students and to engage them intellectually, musically, socially. We might point to a few of these philosophical foundations for the need to sing as ways of helping us determine what is important about our own programs and how we might move forward beyond our current health crisis as classroom instruction begins to return to something approaching a more normal situation. Why do we sing? I think that one of the most powerful arguments for singing as a part of the curriculum of any school is the idea that we sing because singing is important. Not necessarily because people who participate in ensembles are going to be more successful in math classes or excel in science or that they learn the skills needed to become great business people. All of these things might be true, and they might be compelling, and they might help us to allow administrators the opportunity to see exactly what it is that we have to provide to enrich our students' lives. But I think it's important to remember that singing is and of itself of importance intrinsically. Humans sing. To not sing is to lessen our humanity. It is important for us to remember that singing also fulfills a ritual function. Singing is a part of liturgy. Singing is a part of liturgical celebration, of worship, of the Mass. Musicians are directly engaged in assisting to elevate the Mass and other liturgical services in a way that allows students to experience the beauty and the transcendence of Catholic worship. Singing also functions as a social outlet. Our students like to be in a room with other people. They like to sing in a choir. When we consider these three philosophical underpinnings for the need to sing, we realize that in this moment, many of us are, for reasons out of our control, falling short. Our students' engagement in music classes, while they're online or in a hybrid format, shows that perhaps singing for the sake of singing is not something of importance. Students are not able to participate in the act of singing as ritual. And without being in the room with your friends, students really don't engage socially in the act of singing. Perhaps as we move forward through this pandemic and beyond, we might find ways to emphasize these three elements in a more urgent and vital way. Can we emphasize to our students that singing is important simply because singing is important? If we believe in the ritual power of singing and its importance in the Mass and in the Liturgy of the Hours, can we find ways to engage our students even now in this act of worship? And how can we engage our students socially while so many of us are at a distance? Friends, I know it's not easy, but I think we have to do it. And moving forward, I would argue that these three underpinnings are so much more important than questions of eventual marketability or economic impact. These are things that I believe our students really need to understand. What opportunities are there for us to reimagine our repertoire in this moment? Well, we have a necessity to remain flexible. This might not be a bad thing from the standpoint of pedagogy. Some of the most flexible repertoire in the choral canon happens to be some of the most teachable and foundational repertoire. I would like to suggest that we open up our round books again. I have used the rounds of Thomas Ravenscroft, the English composer from the late Renaissance, in so many of my performing groups. I can perform these rounds with a handful of singers or with a whole choir. The voicing is flexible enough for me to be able to accommodate whoever happens to be in the room. There are rounds written by more recent composers that I think you would really enjoy. In this moment and for the foreseeable future, we will need to find repertoire that is flexible, that meets our students where they are, and that allows us to accommodate the people that are in our room. To that end, I recommend pulling back into your libraries and looking for canons and rounds. They can be revoiced to suit whoever happens to be in your rehearsal at a given time. You can teach the melody in unison to a group asynchronously, and then put things together for a meaningful concert or a presentation for liturgy. A collection I love is called Sing We Now Merrily, a collection of Elizabethan rounds from Thomas Ravenscroft. This collection is published by Boosey and Hawkes, and I have come back to it year in and year out to find repertoire for groups when I wasn't sure exactly what to do with them. This music is high quality, beautifully constructed, and I think your students would enjoy it. Rounds can be as sophisticated as the people in front of you. I think they get a bad rap, to be honest. I promise you there will be rounds in this book that will challenge your most advanced singers, and other rounds that your most beginning singers can dig right into. I would point out that there are rounds and canons from all around the world that would be positive additions to your concert repertoire and to your liturgical repertoire.
Miserere nostri Domine, secondo misericordiam tuam. Miserere nostri Domine, secondo nostri
I think that one really powerful change in the way that we think about choir moving forward will be in the way that we think about assessment. Now, as I mentioned, these are problems that choir programs, music programs have been facing for a long time. Our current situation has accelerated our need to recognize what some of these issues are in the way that we operate and function within our own programs. But let's be honest, how do we give grades in choir? What do we do? Sometimes we're thinking primarily about attendance. Sometimes we're not even sure exactly what it is that we're using to assess these students. And I think to justify choir as a subject, as a part of a curriculum, as something that students need to participate in, we need to be clear about what our standards are, what we're assessing. And I think that as some places have moved towards things like standard-based grading, our need to quantify what those standards are becomes especially important. I want to show you a couple of resources that I personally have used during this pandemic time with my own singers as we have been away from one another. Just in a way of showing you what some of this technology has to offer, and maybe in thinking of ways that you might rethink your own assessment. We're going to start with a tool called Sight Reading Factory. Both of the tools I'm going to show you are rather inexpensive, and I think that you might find some fun ways to use them in your own class. Sight Reading Factory allows you the opportunity to develop classes and assignments based on the curriculum that you happen to be teaching. I can show you how it works by clicking on the Start Sight Reading. And you see that I've been doing some things, but this allows you the opportunity to create random sight reading examples for both ensembles and for single voice singers. So I'll show you a solo voice one. you'll see that there are quite a lot of options here for voice part, including cambiata for those changing voices, maybe your 7th and 8th grade guys. And you'll see other parts that we recognize: soprano, alto, tenor, bass. A couple of options for tenor. You can sing the bass or the treble clef. That's great to get people to practice. I'll click soprano. And you'll see that there are already some preset difficulty levels that are made for folks in certain states that have adopted this as a part of their statewide curriculum. I think we'll make this super easy. We're going to click on the Florida All-State Middle School Choir Audition, and you'll see that everything here is going to be moving by step. The range is going to be rather limited, and just a few rhythms that we might have the option of doing. So I think we'll click C major here and take a look at what happens. It creates a random example every time that I click the next button. And I have the opportunity to sing it. I can create tests for my students. They can sing on their own. And then after I sing it, or even while I sing it, I can listen to the computer perform this. Do, re, 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 mi, fa, sol. What a great way of helping students to learn how to sight read in our choir classes. And again, by recording stuff, I can use this to create an assessment. I can create a rubric based on what my students have gotten right, what they have gotten wrong, and that can help me to give them a grade that is fair. This is a pretty cool thing about Sight Reading Factory. If I go over back to my Start Sight Reading and I click on Ensembles, you'll see that I can actually create a choir sight reading example. I can create a unison choir example that is going to show me things. Let's do 4/4 time here, and let's say I want to be in G. That will show me some examples where my students are getting practice reading both the treble and the bass clefs, which is really a super thing. But look at this. I can go back in here and click Ensembles, Choir Multipart, and again, let's do an easy one. I can voice this based on what I happen to have in the room. So let's say I've got some cambiatas and I've got some baritones. They're kind of young. Let's go 3/4 time. I'm feeling adventurous. F, that's a good key for those younger students. Look at this. This gives me, in some kind of 4-part harmony, an example that I could read with my students. You'll notice there are a few things in unison here, but I have a line for each voice part, and this is randomly generated. I can keep going in this key. Let's say that the first part of the semester I'm just working in the key of F. And look, if I'm still working in a hybrid, I can share this on a screen with my students. This has so many possibilities. If I'm back in the classroom, I could use this on a smartboard and project things for the students. The cost per student, if you give individual licenses, is only a few dollars per student. Or if you got your own personal license, that might be a way for you to project it for your students, or to use it individually in other ways. A very nice resource and a way of giving grades that are tied to standards of some sort. I'll show you another little tool here, which is Soundcheck from NoteFlight. And Soundcheck is a tool that allows you to sing into a microphone, and the software will tell you if you got a note right or a note wrong. Let's see here. Let me change my tempo to something that I can read. And I will hit record, and let's see what happens. So I'm going to share my internal microphone. Do, ti, la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. Hey, that was pretty good. I got a 95 on this. Watch what happens. It gives me green if I got the right note. Yellow, oh, I was pretty flat there on that. La going down, I was a little sharp over here. This is a wonderful tool for students to see exactly how they accomplish these sight reading examples. And this particular piece of software has the ability to tie directly into your learning management system. So if you're using Canvas or if you're using Google Classrooms, it's integrated with that product. So you have the ability to make an assignment for a student, say, please sing these examples by next week, and the computer will take that percentage score and automatically upload it to their gradebook, which is pretty cool and a huge time saver for us teachers. Another cool tool is Soundtrap. This is a nice little recording session kind of piece of software that is available as a website. Again, you have a license that you can buy for students. You have the ability to create assignments and to assign them to individuals in your classroom. You can add things to that assignment. So for instance, in my choirs, as we've been working away from each other, what I'll do is I'll add a track, and it might be me playing the accompaniment on the piano, or it might be a recording of the piece, and then I ask them to add a track, and it's them singing along with that accompaniment track. Then I take this and I grade it. The students have the ability to invite other people to their assignment, and I've had friends and colleagues who have really done creative things. They've had students create lo-fi versions of their choral music. They've had students try to sing in harmony with themselves. They've used it for voice tests. Again, we're finding ways to assess that are faster, that are easier to use than what we had before, and I can really see this technology sticking with us even as we move back into a more normal situation. Finally, friends, I would point out that access to music education, and particularly the stresses of this time, have shown us all just how inequitable some of this access can be. Some of our students enjoy fantastic Wi-Fi coverage and have better computers than you and I might have in our offices at school. Other students find it a challenge just to log in, if they even have a computer. And perhaps others of them are busy taking care of relatives or brothers and sisters. With this in mind, I want to consider whether or not our music classroom is equitable. Friends, to be equitable is to be fair or just, and it follows that to teach with equity in mind is to teach with fairness in mind. Choral singing justifies itself as an activity, as we said, not because it makes us smarter or more marketable. It's justified because it's simply something which humans are supposed to do. Our state of being as humans demands that we sing. And for that reason, singing transcends the realm of mere activity, and it becomes a human right. We know this just from looking at the world around us. You leave a group of people around for a little while, and pretty soon some of them will start singing together. This is common throughout history. People have a right to sing because it's just what humans do. It's a part of our essence, and we have an obligation to help the people in front of us sing, even in this moment. It follows that if singing is a human right, then access to singing ultimately becomes an issue of equity. Our current health crisis has made it difficult for our most vulnerable and marginalized populations to participate in singing activities. We know this. They might lack access to technology, or they may face language barriers, or they may confront a lack of basic resources or medical care. But it has always been hard for certain people to participate in our choirs for all of these reasons, or because of differences in ability, or because they feel bullied, or just different. These people have not been free to express themselves as singers. They are not allowed to experience the fullness of their humanity. This is a human rights issue, and it will remain a human rights issue long after this pandemic is over. What's the equitable response? Well, I wish this short talk had all the answers, and many of the issues that we face are societal issues which have to be addressed. Erin Guinup responded in a specific way to a need in her community and started the Tacoma Refugee Choir. In a lovely article about her work published by the National Association of Teachers of Singing, she quotes from Article 27 of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which states, and I quote, "All persons enjoy the right to freedom of artistic expression and creativity, which includes the right to freely experience and contribute to artistic expressions and creations through individual or joint practice, to have access to and enjoy the arts, and to disseminate their expressions and creations." Did you know that this language existed? I did not. And it's worth pointing out that one of the key architects of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was the Catholic theologian Jacques Maritain. But what about the singers in front of us now? The children, the teenagers, elementary school students, middle school students, high school students. How do we address issues of equity in our own choral programs? Starting a new choir probably isn't feasible at this time, and our own energy and enthusiasm have been sapped. We know this. Listen. In humility, I would suggest that one way for us forward as choir directors is to take a step away from the general and universal, which can be overwhelming, and simply to respond and focus on the specific situations facing the individuals in front of us. Respond to what they need. You might not be able to accomplish all that you had hoped this year. A polished concert, the perfect virtual choir, even just live singing is out of reach for so many of us. It might be difficult, or even uncomfortable for us to let go of these goals, but that's okay. You might not be able to fix the world, but you can make the hours that you share with your choir and your singers enjoyable. Singing, expressing, simply being human together and knowing that we are not alone, that's the thing. That's the essence of what is most important and fundamental about this shared experience. And this is what we can take with us as we move beyond this pandemic. You know from your own experience in this moment that this call is not easy. It takes time. And with this in mind, it seems to me that equity is not a state of being, or something to be found or solved. It's instead a state of doing, a series of actions, a constant giving, and our work is never quite done. What you have to share as a musician is vital to people who desperately need it. It's difficult, but we have to do it. And it's the fair and just thing to do, because our state of being as humans demands that we sing. The people in front of you have a right to express themselves. And to facilitate this, to help them through the limitations and difficulties of this time, this is equity. This is our call as choir directors as we move into the 21st century. Thank you again for having me. Have a great rest of your conference.